Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. The Rwandan-backed M23 rebels seized control of the strategic Kavumu airport, which serves Bukavu, the capital of the South Kivu province in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, on the 14th of February. Reportedly, the rebel group met with very little resistance in the town of Kavumu, where the airport is located. The strategic site is considered the last military obstacle to the M23 rebels before Bukavu, a city of 1 million people, some 30 kilometers away. By Friday evening, the rebels had reportedly entered into the capital of the South Kivu province. The progress has come despite international calls for a ceasefire and a resumption of the peace talks. In late January, the M23 rebels, backed by the Rwandan troops, had seized Goma, the provincial capital of North Kivu, in a lightning offensive. And since then, despite the declaration of a unilateral ceasefire, the M23 rebels have continued to expand their stranglehold over Congo's mineral-rich eastern region. Our next report gets more details.
For more than 3 decades, the mineral-rich Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has been blighted by war. More than 120 rebel groups have been fighting with the Congolese forces for power, land, and valuable mineral resources estimated to be worth $24 trillion. Preeminent among these armed groups is the M23 or March 23 movement, a largely Tutsi rebel group linked with the neighboring Rwanda. Kigali is accused by Kinshasa of seeking to profit from the region's abundant natural resources such as gold and coltan, a metallic ore considered vital in the manufacture of mobile phones and laptops. Refuting these allegations, Kigali maintains that its national security is under threat from armed groups, in particular the FDLR, which was created by former Hutu leaders in the 1994 Rwandan genocide against Tutsis. In tit-for-tat measures, both countries have recalled their ambassadors from each other's capitals, while Congo has shut its airspace to Rwandan aircraft. In a major victory after more than 3 years of fighting, the M23 rebels seized Goma, the capital city of the North Kivu province, on the 26th of January in a lightning offensive. Nearly 3,000 people were killed and 2,880 were injured, though it is feared that the actual number could be significantly higher. Subsequent to the capture of Goma, severe shortages of food, shelter, electricity and drinking water was also reported. Not resting on their laurels, the rebel coalition Alliance Fleuve Congo, which includes the M23 group, threatened to continue the offensive to the capital Kinshasa. On Friday, the M23 rebels overpowered Congolese forces to overtake Kavumu Airport, about 30 kilometers north of the city of Bukavu in South Kivu province. Reportedly, the airport held Congolese army aircraft and was one of the last major runways for large planes in the region. The recent escalation in the fighting has left at least 350,000 internally displaced people without shelter. Many of these displaced people have sought shelter in the city of Bukavu, which was bracing itself for an imminent attack by the rebels.
I come from Miti. Hearing the detonations of bombs and weapons threw us off balance to such an extent that we were forced to leave Miti and come to the city of Bukavu. So far I don't know where to go because even my relatives here can't afford to take me in with the children.
Today we are scared and I think I have to leave this city because those who are securing us are already running away. And I am a civilian. I am going to go up to the mountains.
On Friday, Trucks and cars full of Congolese soldiers carrying their weapons were seen on the streets of Bukavu. The M23 rebels, continuing their march towards Bukavu, had captured several towns including Katana earlier the day. Both Congo and the United Nations officials have warned that the rebels' next stop is Bukavu, a city of about 1 million people on the southern tip of Lake Kivu along Rwanda's border. The trading hub is an important transit point for Congo's gold reaches from South Kivu, much of which is smuggled to neighboring countries. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, speaking at the Munich Security Conference, slammed the international community and the Rwandan defense minister, saying that the Rwandan ruling class seems to be struck with amnesia.
It's not that I don't trust the African Union. Moreover, the same problem that exists at the level of the regional economic communities also arises at the level of the African Union. And what's worse, there are even African Union representatives who sit on the United Nations Security Council as permanent members, which is the most typical case. This is what my country is experiencing at the moment. I'm also astonished by the amnesia. Apparently, it must be a habit in the Rwandan ruling class to be struck by amnesia when the world's cameras have shown how the Rwandan army invaded the Democratic Republic of the Congo. A representative of Rwanda says here that they never attacked the Congo. Well, they live in their dream world, so that can be explained.
In order to protect the city of Bukavu, Congolese youth have been enthusiastically volunteering to join the local militias that have been fighting alongside the Congolese army. Uganda, Burundi, and South Africa all have boots on the ground, prompting fears of a wider regional conflict. The big question is, can the ill-equipped and poorly paid Congolese forces, allied with a ragtag bunch of militia, halt the fast-moving offensive of M23 rebels?
The American President Donald Trump has offered to sell the elite fifth-generation F-35 stealth fighter jets to India. But what is interesting is that the Russians have also offered to sell the Su-57 Felon, the elite Russian fifth-generation fighter jets, to India. In the recently held Aero India show in Bengaluru, the two defense manufacturing giants had brought their frontline fighter jets to show off their capabilities. In December 2024, the Pakistani media had reported that Islamabad is expected to purchase about 40 J-35 fifth-generation fighter jets from China to replace its aging fleet of the American F-16s and the French Mirage fighters. Timelines in defense acquisitions are not set in stone, and India, it appears, is spoiled for choice with respect to the fifth-generation fighter jets that it can purchase. But the question is this: which fifth-generation fighter jet should India purchase? The American-manufactured F-35 or the Russian Su-57 Felon? Or should India focus on developing its own fifth-generation fighter, the AMCA? Our next report gets you more details.
Starting this year, we'll be increasing military sales to India by many billions of dollars. We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters.
With these words, Donald Trump has created a stir. On the 11th of February, Russia showcased its most elite fighter jet, the Su-57 Felon, at the Aero India show in Bengaluru and offered to manufacture it for India, along with a full transfer of technology to ensure that production and maintenance would not be affected despite the Western sanctions. And just 3 days later, the American President Donald Trump threw in the hat to provide America's most advanced fighter jets to India. At this moment, only 3 nations in the world have the capacity to produce operational fighter jets: the United States with its F-22 Raptors and the F-35 fighters, China with its J-20 and J-35 fighter jets, and Russia with its Sukhoi Su-57 fighter jets, which entered service with the Russian Air Force on the 25th of December in 2020. But how do these fifth-generation fighter jets fare against each other in a head-to-head contest. The United States is the original pioneer of fifth-generation fighter jets. Developed by Lockheed Martin, the F-35 is capable of electronic warfare, intelligence gathering, surveillance and reconnaissance. What is interesting is that the F-35 was first used in combat by the Israelis over Beirut in Lebanon in 2018. Pretty much most NATO allies, besides other close allies of the United States, such as South Korea, Switzerland and even Singapore, have placed orders to acquire the F-35 fighter jets. The spec sheet of the F-35 fighter jet is as impressive as it gets. The fighter has a wing area of 43 square meters. The F-35 has a maximum takeoff weight of 31,750 kilograms. It can reach a top speed of 1.6 Mach, besides having a range of 2,800 kilometers. But it is in the armaments which it can carry that the F-35 outshines its competitors. The F-35 has 4 internal stations and 6 external stations on wings to carry a whole host of air-to-air, air-to-surface and anti-ship missiles. The fighter is also fitted with some of the best avionics on a combat aircraft. Each F-35 fighter jet is estimated to cost about $115 million. The Russian Sukhoi Su-57 is a multi-role fighter that is capable of aerial combat as well as ground and maritime strikes. The Su-57 incorporates stealth, super maneuverability, super cruise integrated avionics and substantial internal payload capacity. The spec sheet of the Su-57 is pretty impressive as well. It has a wing area of 78.8 square meters, a maximum takeoff weight of 35,000 kilograms. The Su-57 can also hit a max speed of Mach 2 and has a maximum range of 4,500 kilometers with 2 outboard fuel tanks. The Su-57 has 12 hard points in which it can carry air-to-air, air-to-surface, anti-ship and anti-radiation missiles. India's biggest competitor in the region for air superiority is China. Many military analysts say the design and build of the Chinese J-20 borrows heavily from the F-22 Raptor, but a closer inspection shows that the J-20 may have both Russian and American DNA. With a wingspan of 73 square meters, the J-20 fighter jet has a maximum takeoff weight of 37,000 kilograms. The J-20 can hit a maximum speed of Mach 2. It has a maximum range of 5,500 kilometers with 2 external fuel tanks. The fighter has a maximum weapons capacity of 11,000 kilograms. A whole host of different missiles can be deployed, including several types of air-to-air missiles of varying ranges. The J-20 is also equipped with what are known as anti-radiation missiles, through which the fighter jet can detect and destroy enemy radars, jammers and radio devices. A single J-20 fighter jet is estimated to cost about $120 million. It'll be interesting to see whether India chooses to purchase the Russian Su-57 Felon or the Donald Trump offered F-35 stealth fighter jet. Africa's third largest country by size, the Republic of Sudan, has been ravaged by war for over 22 months. The conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the powerful paramilitary rapid support forces has killed more than 28,000 people and has forced about 12 million people to flee from their homes and has pushed millions to the brink of famine. The fighting has intensified in recent weeks, with the Sudanese armed forces making some considerable gains. But as it loses ground to the Sudanese army in the capital city of Khartoum, the rapid support forces this week have staged multiple attacks on the Zamzam camp, which lies outside of El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, and the Sudanese army's last remaining foothold in the Darfur region. Our next report gets more details.
The Sudanese army, helmed by the country's de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has been at war with the paramilitary rapid support forces led by al-Burhan's former deputy Mohammed Dagalo since mid-April 2023. Why did an all-out war erupt between the army chief al-Burhan and General Dagalo? who were once allies. The RSF, helmed by General Dagalo, and the army, led by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, had shared power with civilians after the 2019 overthrow of former strongman Omar al-Bashir. And in 2021, the army and the RSF joined hands together to stage a coup. But relations soured between the army and the RSF over the planned integration of the paramilitary RSF into the regular army, an internationally backed political transition plan. Soon after, in a lightning offensive, the RSF quickly took over most of the capital Khartoum and rapidly spread into at least half the country. But the Sudanese army has regained significant ground in recent weeks and mounted a fierce offensive to reclaim full control of the capital, Khartoum. Last month, the Sudanese army broke the RSF siege of its Khartoum General Command headquarters. Acknowledging the setbacks in the capital in a rare video address on the 31st of January, RSF commander Mohammed Dagalo has struck a defiant tone in an apparent attempt to boost the morale of his troops.
First of all, I don't want you to think about the army entering the general command or the signal corps or opening roads or taking control of Al-Jaili or Wad Madani. No, we must think of what we intend to take. What do we intend to take? We will reclaim what was taken from us. That's what matters. We shouldn't think about them taking control of Al-Jaili or Wad Madani. No.
On the 11th of February, the RSF fighters stormed Sudan's largest displacement camp, reportedly looting and setting fire to the market and several homes, as evidenced by the satellite imagery taken 2 days later. The Zamzam displacement camp near El Fasher hosts about 500,000 displaced people already bearing the brunt of famine. The RSF attack forced thousands of them to flee again. RSF, however, claims that the Zamzam camp serves as a base for the joint forces, former rebel groups now allied with the Sudanese army. Though Zamzam camp in North Darfur has been witnessing intense artillery shelling since last year, this is the first time the RSF has been accused of sending in fighters. Though the number of casualties is yet to be ascertained, eyewitnesses reported the situation at the camp to be extremely catastrophic. The nearby city of El Fasher, the only city still under army control in Darfur, has been under siege by the RSF since last April. A day after the RSF fighters stormed Zamzam camp, the Sudanese foreign minister on a visit to Moscow expressed gratitude to Russia for its support in the United Nations Security Council.
We have come here to thank the leadership, government and Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation for their supportive stance on Sudan in the United Nations Security Council. There were attempts to pass a resolution in the Security Council that would pave the way for international UN forces to intervene in Sudan. Of course, we reject this intervention in Sudanese affairs. The Russian position has been warmly welcomed by the Sudanese people, the Sudanese leadership and all Sudanese officials.
The 22-month war in Sudan has precipitated one of the worst humanitarian nightmares in recent history. Chances are the plight of Sudanese people will only continue to worsen if the two warring generals don't come to the negotiating table and external interference in any form stops immediately.
On the 11th of February, the Italian police launched a major operation against the Sicilian Mafia in and around the Sicilian capital, Palermo, in which about 147 members of the Sicilian Mafia were arrested in dawn raids. In total, arrest warrants were issued for 183 people, 36 of whom are already in prison. The Sicilian Mafia, which etched its name in the cinematic folklore for being the inspiration behind Godfather films, has maintained its grip on local towns and cities for close to 100 years. Despite setbacks in recent decades, the notorious Sicilian Mafia continues to be a significant criminal force, wielding considerable clout in areas of Palermo. The question is this: will the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who hailed the operation, bring an end to the nearly 100-year-long reign of terror. Our next report gets more details.
In what is being touted as the biggest operation since the Cosa Nostra since 1984, more than 1,200 officers from all over Sicily conducted raids before dawn on Tuesday. In several districts of the Sicilian capital, Palermo, aimed at dismantling the Sicilian Mafia.
This morning, we executed 183 restrictive measures issued by the judicial authority, including precautionary measures and some arrests. A significant effort was made to carry out these measures. Around 1,200 carabinieri were involved, not only from the provincial command, but also with the collaboration of carabinieri from across Sicily.
Subsequent to the raids, the apprehended suspects were charged with various crimes, including drug trafficking, attempted murder, extortion, illegal online gambling, and illegal possession of firearms. The mega operation is viewed by Italian authorities as a significant step in a bid to prevent the Mafia from rebuilding its governing body known as Cupola. For years, the Cosa Nostra, or the Mafia syndicate based in and around Palermo, terrorized the Italian public and state. Their downfall was triggered by the killings of crusading anti-Mafia judges in early 1990s, which resulted in fierce government clampdown. In 1993, Salvatore Toto Riina, the so-called boss of bosses, was arrested in Palermo. And in 2023, notorious mobster Matteo Messina Denaro was arrested as he paid a visit to a local clinic. Bearing the brunt of the clampdown, the dreaded Sicilian Mafia was overtaken in power and wealth by Calabria's and 'Ndrangheta, which now controls the bulk of cocaine flowing into Europe. Though no longer the force it once was, the Sicilian Mafia still manages to attract a large number of people to its fold and is forging alliances with mobsters both in Sicily and the mainland.
Cosa Nostra is trying to regain strength by integrating into much broader networks of relationships. The re-emerging of drug trafficking, particularly the control of cocaine distribution, clearly reveals that Cosa Nostra has deep connections with criminal groups that oversee transnational routes, enabling drugs to reach Italy.
Although many members of the Sicilian Mafia have been put behind bars, reportedly they have continued their criminal activities, aided by tiny encrypted mobile phones smuggled into their cells. With changing times, the Sicilian Mafia, it appears, is continuously updating and improvising its modus operandi. The Italian police, too, has had its share of successes against organized crime. The question is, will this major operation by the Italian police prove to be the death knell of the Cosa Nostra?
And with that's a wrap on this edition of World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the ID that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.